Alright, I got about a half hour to kill before I do this production meeting, so I thought I would do a quick review of The Enemy Without, a Deathwatch Vignette. For those unfamiliar, the Deathwatch is a faction Warhammer 40k Space Marines, and they're like Delta Force. Delta Force recruits from every branch of the service, and only the best of the best need apply. So they're indeed special forces, and they basically watch out. They have different outposts throughout the galaxy, and they watch out for alien incursions, and they do their thing. So when Marines join the Deathwatch, they keep their left pauldron or the right pauldron, their chapter colors, as to not anger the machine spirit of their armor. And they paint their armor black, and then they have a silver gauntlet, usually the cool little pauldron that's got all the writing all over it.
Let's go.
Since this is so short, I don't want to talk over it too much, but we'll go into some details after the video. It's only about 6 minutes, so all right, let's check it out. Now, I believe these to be Necron flares. The flare curse is, it infects Necrons. I think it was caused by them killing one of the Catan gods. When they killed them, they were cursed. And so now the flare disease is something that can infect them. And I'm going by the long Wolverine claws. I'm not 100% certain on that. I'm not a Necron expert. I think the Necrons have the best weapons in the 40k universe. Essentially, those Gauss beams dematerialize at a molecular level, and they just dissolve everything. The Marines have pretty good armor. They have power armor and power shields, and as you can see, they're able to absorb some damage, but eventually, that you get hit by one of that, it just disintegrates you, kind of like the Romulans in Star Trek. Holy crap, is that a Grey Wolves chaplain that just dropped out of nowhere? So you got the Crimson Fist, that's the blue with the red fist on it. You got the Black Templars, that's the Iron Cross, and then you've got the Grey Wolves. You couldn't get three factions farther apart in ideology from each other, and yet they're all fighting together. Yeah, that's what I love about the Deathwatch. I believe that's a statue of the Primaris Robute Gilliman of the Ultramarines. Not sure what the significance of it is. It's a very short film. Alright, so what are my thoughts? So, first of all, I absolutely love Deathwatch. I started collecting them when I realized that I had one of the first Space Marines I had purchased, which was the Salamanders of Garrett. What was his name? Garrett. I can't think of his last name. But anyway, he was a Terminator. And I didn't recognize the pauldron with all the writing on it, so I painted him up like a regular old Salamanders. And then I found out a couple of years later that he was a Deathwatch Terminator, and I thought, oh man, that's cool. So I corrected him, I painted him correctly, and then I started diving into the lore. Up until that point, I had been a real big Grey Knights fan, and you know, because the Grey Knights are just, they're like they're special forces. They're just like a special group of space marines with their gene seed direct from the Emperor himself. But then you've got the Deathwatch, and the Deathwatch is like the closest thing you can have to like Clint Eastwood in The Man with No Name, that kind of situation, where one of two things will happen. You either join the Deathwatch voluntarily, each faction will send its best, you know, and it's an honor for them to serve. So it's like getting, you know, it's like going out for SEALs or Delta Force. But they also have what's called Black Shields, which means if you did something that you need to atone for, or you sinned against the Imperium, or you have to make up for a crime, you can show up at the Deathwatch, no questions asked. They will turn you into a Black Shield. They'll get rid of your name. You'll get a brand new name. No one will know your history. But when you go back to, if you go back, because there's a high turnover rate, if you know what I mean, they don't last very long. If you make it back to your unit after atoning, you know, doing great things, performing awesome duties, and they find out you're Black Shield, they got some questions. Now, the video game of Space Marine 2, Captain, what's his name? Captain Titus is a Black Shield in the Deathwatch at the beginning of the game, the first mission. He's in the Deathwatch, and all those guys died with doing a Special Forces thing. And then he went back to the Ultramarines, and you know, they basically went over. And that, I think that's that video game is expanding the interest in the Deathwatch as a faction. And since Games Workshop came out with the new Inquisition combat patrols and the Inquisition army, you can be a mixture of Grey Knights, Sisters of Battle Sisters, or Deathwatch. So I inadvertently had a few figurines from each of those factions, and now I have enough to create an army. So, and while I've been working on my Salamanders army, I am now building a Deathwatch army, and it's awesome. Well, an Inquisition army, it's essentially. So I've got Grey Knights, I've got Battle Sisters, I've got Deathwatch, and of course Inquisitors. And it's pretty cool. I have no idea how it's going to play on the tabletop. I don't even have all the data sheets, but it's exciting to paint. And I love cobbling together all the different factions. I think it's really neat. If any of you guys play Inquisition, let me know. I would be really interested to hear how they play on the tabletop. Are they compared to, you know, more traditional units like the Salamanders? Now, as far as this animation went, I dug it. I mean, it was short. It was short. A vignette for sure. 6 minutes. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I think it was a tech demonstrator for maybe Unreal 5 engine. It possibly. I don't know. Honestly, while I liked it, I thought that the cutscenes to video games would look better, to be honest with you. So I have no idea if this was fan-made, or who made it, you know, if it was a professional studio, or if it was just someone at home with Unreal 5 and a lot of time on their hands. I have no idea. But I dug it, and I would love to know your thoughts on it. I don't know what to say. It was short. It was sweet. They went in there, they fought some flares, and then they had that badass, whatever, I don't even know what that Necron's called, the spider-looking dude. What are those things called? I have a few Necrons that I painted up, but I don't know much about them. I'm not running them. I haven't run them as an army. So I'm a little behind on the lore, with the exception of, you know, like Trazen the Infinite, the Silent King. I know I have some of the books where I've read about Necron specific characters, but I don't know much about like how they play on the table or what the unit names are, that kind of thing. I don't know. They're not my favorite faction. In most videos, they just seem like boring Terminators, you know, without much personality. But then when they're represented in the fiction, in the lore, like they're named characters, like Trazen the Infinite. He's an amazing character, and they have awesome personalities. But as an army, as a tabletop army, they just seem like kind of, I don't know. They all got essentially the same weapons, and it just doesn't. They don't do much for me. I don't know. What would win? I would like to see like a real animation in army versus Necrons versus Tyranids, just to see who would come out on top on that. I imagine because the Necrons aren't living technically, and the Tyranids exist on a biofuel. They have to devour and they adapt and all that. I would be interested to see how they would try to adapt to fighting the Necrons, because that was the issue when they were fighting the orcs. The Imperium wouldn't let them continue because they thought that they would eat the orcs and evolve into an organism that was an abomination. An orc plus Tyranid equals what? Holy crap. All the best features of the orcs and all the best features of the Tyranids would evolve into this, like, oh man, that'd be interesting to see. I don't know much to say. It was a cool video. I really enjoyed it. I didn't see any problems with it, but it could have been longer. I would have loved to have explored more of the dynamics between the three different factions represented. But, short and sweet. What can you ask for? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I got to get back to work. My break is over. See you on the battlefield.